Good morning. Happy Wednesday, not Thursday. Boys and girls and everyone in between. Hello, hi, welcome to Not Too Good episode number 3. Still not neglecting you guys. I do have a lot of fun with this, so I'm very blessed to be able to do this every week, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been a good outlet for me, but then also just creatively, it's been fun to put together and kind of evolve just over the 3 episodes I've done. I'm really happy with where it's going. But with this, I do have some bad news. I'd like to apologize. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to the fans. I'm sorry to the people. I'm sorry to you. I've let you down. I really have. I found a more consistent work routine, something that I've been neglecting for a long time, but finally found it, or at least I'm trying to work on finding it. Balancing self-care, my YouTube channel, the podcast, and making money, which gross, right? I know. I'd like to apologize for spreading some misinformation and just straight up lying to you guys. I feel terrible for doing that. And, at the end of the day, I want to make you guys happy, right? I really want to make sure that you guys know that I care about you. And what I did is deplorable, really. It's gross. And it doesn't reflect who I am as a person. But I hope you'll understand that over the past 2 weeks, I have been lying to you. And that's because we're moving the show to Wednesday. I know for the past 2 weeks, I've been preaching. The show is on Thursday, every Thursday, live on YouTube. But I lied. We're moving it to Wednesday. It works better for my schedule. It's going to get me more into a routine. And, we're still going to go live on YouTube. We're staying on YouTube. We're going live on YouTube every single week, but on Wednesday now instead of Thursday, 10 o'clock Arizona time. That's not changing. I still have neglected to research what time it will be once daylight savings hits. I don't know if are we in standard time? Is it Pacific Standard Time? Or is it Pacific time? I don't know. Regardless, that's the news. That's my big apology. We're going to Wednesdays instead of Thursdays. I set up this whole scene for it. Big apology video. And I'm sorry. I genuinely am. Not really. It's not that big of a deal. Anyway. What are we talking about today? What are we doing? What are we doing here? Well, we're going to be a little mean to our comfort zones today. We're going to confront our fears and give a little mean snarl to our comfort zones. We're going to be discussing the idea of exploring creativity by our lonesome and discussing the pros and cons and the habits that are formed out of creating by ourselves alone. I'm going to tell you a good coffee story that included having my ideas challenged, like head on, and kind of opened my eyes to what made me understand that I am living in a bubble and how I've been taking feedback. And then we're going to talk about balancing radical confidence in your own work, your art, your beliefs, everything, versus open-mindedness and why you kind of need both. And then finally, touching on why we actually do need to create alone sometimes, because it's, like I said, it's kind of a balance. You kind of need two necessary, I don't want to say necessary evils, but it gets kind of dangerous when you go one way or the other. So we're going to talk about that. But in order to get there, like therapy, like I feel like I've done 2 weeks in a row, 3 weeks in a row now, we need to go way back. We got to go way back to the beginning. This is me as a young child. My creative side was never really tended to. I mean, like, nobody That's a lie. Some people made fun of me, but not a lot of people made fun of me for being creative. Drawing in the back of the class, doing little sketches, paintings, little comic book strips. I was a very creative child. And, I just generally, as a kid and then into my adult life, I've always enjoyed creativity and just expressing myself, obviously, because if I didn't, I wouldn't be here now. But I talked about this a little bit in the last episode, but whether it was just, how I felt or actually like really how it was, my creativity was never really directly supported. I was a really good student. Like I was really good at academics. So that was always supported by my teachers, my parents, my friends, people around me. My grades were always really supported, and I always felt like I had to lean into that side of me, which is good. I'm glad that I walked away with good habits in terms of like learning and absorbing information. But the creative side of me, the side that I actually had a lot more fun with, was never really tended to directly. I never got feedback, and it was hard for me to create with others. And as time went on, I just kind of found that it was hard for me to share my work, my creative endeavors, really, just because I think there was such a big support from my academic side. So I quickly realized going into my childhood, what's up, Emiliano? How you doing? Welcome to the show. I quickly realized going into, growing up and becoming more of my own person, that I just work better alone. This applies to my creative side. This applies to academics. This applies to a lot of things. I just work better alone in basically every field. Mostly because it allows me to see my vision from start to finish completely. And we'll get into that a little more, because I've definitely explored that within the past few years. But this, of course, obviously, as everything does, I'm sensing a pattern here with the show. This, of course, carried into my adult life. So we have to ask ourselves, why do we create alone? Why do we choose to create alone? Because I feel like as humans, as people, we're kind of a social, I almost said breed. We're kind of a social species, right? We thrive on community. We thrive on people, and really rely on each other. I think that's why we thrived. But don't know where I'm going with this. But anyway, why do we create alone? I want to approach this from a place of understanding, because this is absolutely where my head's kind of been at my entire life. And even though I'm starting to realize that it is getting a little dangerous, being so on that side of creating alone, I do want to recognize the good parts about it. So one of the reasons that we create alone, or I create alone at least, it's super easy to move forward. It's super easy to have an idea and move on to the next piece that you need to realize that idea, because there's nothing really holding you back. There's no people that you have to see to get approved or to get validated by. You don't have to seek approval. You don't have to seek anything, really. If you want to make something happen, you can make it happen. There's nobody really holding you back. Another reason is just complete understanding. You understand exactly what you want to do. You understand the things that you need. You understand the message that you're trying to get across. You understand everything, from your own ideas and how they fit into a bigger picture. So choosing a certain color or a font or whatever will make sense to you because it's your project. You don't have to think twice about it. You don't have to consult somebody else. Like, it's your idea. It's your vision. If you want to make it happen, you can make it happen, and you can make it make sense. And the third reason is there are zero boundaries. There's absolutely no boundaries when you create by yourself. You are the only one that can tell you what you can and cannot do. So you want to make a painting, you want to, shoot a film, you want to do this, you want to do that, you can do it. Nobody's going to stop you. There really are no boundaries when you create by yourself. And I think the most important part of this all, the most important reason that we create alone, is to build self-confidence. Um, I think creating alone is good, can be good, because it provides you with internal validation. If you see a project from beginning to end and you have full creative control and you like what you made, obviously you're going to validate yourself and say, okay, I'm really good at executing a vision. I'm really good at, seeing a project through from beginning to end. And I'm really good at the technical side of things and the creative side of things and just getting really comfortable with seeing a vision through. So if we start over here on the opposite side, and you rely solely on external validation, it's bad. It gets really bad because you get a skewed sense of your own work and your own talents. You're not really creating for yourself anymore. You're creating for the validation of others. And you hear this a lot about people saying like, oh, just create for yourself. Like, don't worry about what other people have to say. But you kind of need a balance of both, right? So if we go to the opposite side, where you're relying solely on internal validation, you don't know what you want to make, but why would you let anyone stop you? Letting people hold you back is just going to make this explorative, is that a word? Letting people hold you back is just going to make this whole explorative process of creativity, especially in the beginning, way harder. It's going to make it way more difficult if you're relying on other people to validate your work and tell you that you're doing well. So starting out, especially like just in any creative field, creating alone is really all you can do, right? This is really all you have to rely on. Even if you're totally comfortable with sharing your own work, like every single creative ever starts out creating by themselves and relying on that internal validation. And I think that's a good thing. I think it gives you the ability to build that self-confidence and build confidence in your own vision, in your vision, in your vision, in your talents, in your, in your vision, in your talents, in your just creativity in general. Getting this internal validation is a really good feeling, but it can't always be like that. I'm kind of getting to a point personally where this is kind of all I've gotten to rely on. And we'll get to kind of the negatives of all this in a second, but ideally you want to meet somewhere in the middle. Ideally you want to meet somewhere in here in the middle where you have a great sense of your own vision and you are confident in your ability and your your creativity, but you also have to realize that you don't live in a void. You're making things for other people at the end of the day. That's what creativity is. Because if you weren't making it for other people, you would never share it. You know what I'm saying? There's a balance. So ideally you want to meet here in the middle. But since we all have to start out kind of creating for ourselves and relying on this internal validation, what can you do in your lonesome? I think it's really important because, like I said, you're not creating for no reason. You have things to say, and you have things that you want to say, and more specifically, you have things you want to change. I think creating by yourself is a really great time to develop. Creating by yourself really is a great time to develop like the changes that you want to see. Develop the things that you see in the world and the way that you see the world, and develop like, okay, here's what I recognize, here's what I understand, here's what I don't like about the world, or whether it's some sort of process or some sort of industry or whatever, and then say, okay, I want to change that. And then building that roadmap to get there. That has to be authentically you, right? And only you can know that, right? These beginning stages of creativity are the best times for you to experiment with that, because maybe you don't know what you want to say. I've been in this situation for years where it's like, I know that I love creativity and I know that I love expressing myself and creating things, but I have no idea why. It's been very hard for me to develop like a reason for why I create. So being in this situation where I'm kind of recognizing like, okay, I know that I love expressing myself. I know that I love creativity. Let me figure out why. And going through those motions of figuring that out have been amazing, because it's given me a more clear sense of a clear path, right? A more clear path of like, okay, I know I have these skill sets. I know I have, the creative drive to do these things. Let me figure out how I can utilize them to make an impactful change for myself and for the rest of the world. Because again, you don't create for yourself. We create for everybody else. So on the topic of vision, I kind of want to walk through how I did that with my YouTube channel, because I think that's been an ever evolving thing. And I think it really does exemplify, how that idea of like creating something for a reason has changed over time. Even the past, what has it been, like 4 months, maybe 4 or 5 months? I started out with video number 1, which was just introducing myself and understanding that I need to not be afraid of expressing myself, right? I need to not be afraid of putting myself out there. And I completely lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. I put out my first video just kind of expressing to myself like, okay, I need to address the fears that I need to get over. I wanted to express myself and I wanted to see my vision come to life, but I was so scared of like judgment, right? I was so scared of other people not validating me that I would always stop myself, even if nobody has ever said anything negative about anything that I made, but there's this fear in me that people would. So I stopped myself. So this first video was like, okay, I just need to put something out there. I don't care what it is. I don't care what the message is. I just need to do it, right? And I did it, and it was fine. It started out as raw expression, but it quickly turned into a challenge for myself, right? So instead of just creating anything, I kind of started to develop, okay, instead of just expressing myself purely, what can I do with this, right? So I put out the second video. I wanted to make better content than the content that I was watching. I got kind of competitive in a way where I was watching a bunch of content, but I told myself I can do this better. I have things I want to say, and I'm watching this video, and I don't think they shot it the right way, or I don't think they said it the right way. I'm gonna do it better. So I broadened my scope, right? I got so caught up in like creating good stuff, which again isn't a bad thing. I just got really competitive with it. So then we got to the third video where I got so clear on my vision and like the things that I wanted to see come out of my work that I started like ruthlessly chipping away at this vision, right? I at this point I had set like a clear path for myself. Okay, I want to be the best YouTuber in the world. I want to be making, the highest quality content with the best scripts and the best visuals and the best color and everything. I want to be the best one. And I'm going to do whatever I can to do that. So I started like ruthlessly, like every single video, it's like 4 or 5 things that I want to get better at. And I did. I would achieve all of them. And then eventually that turned into like a competition with myself, right? It started getting so, I don't want to say out of hand, but it started getting to the point where I was in competition with myself, and I would have this radicalized focus on this vision of like being the best at everything and being better than everyone else. So I'd watch a video and I'd take notes and I'd say, here's how I can do this better. And then I compare it to my last video and say, okay, well, here's how I can do that better. So I was like, just like catching smoke from everyone in my own head, right? This is all in my own head, my own internal dialogue, like watching YouTube videos and being like, all right, I can do this better. I want the smoke. I want to steal this person's audience, but I also want to, want the smoke from myself from 2 weeks ago, right? I got so caught up in this idea that like I'm gonna be the best. I'm gonna be the greatest YouTuber of all time. I'm gonna make the best videos. I'm gonna make it better than everyone else. No one even understands it, right? And I built up these walls for myself, right? I built up these walls where Like pretty soon, I got so caught up in my own vision that I wasn't even like touching base with other people. I wasn't even trying to make videos for other people. It was more so like making videos for myself and proving to myself that I'm the best at what I do, right? It wasn't about the audience. It wasn't about the people that watch my videos. It wasn't about the people I was trying to make videos better than. You know what I'm saying? It was about me. It was all about me and how I perceive my own content. And I got so caught up in this vision that I needed to be the best content creator of all time that I lost sight of like why. I lost sight of like why I'm doing it. And it got pretty out of control because I was so caught up in my head. And then somebody texted me, an old friend, asked me to grab coffee. So I was in the height of my radical focus, my borderline like manic episode of like becoming the best and proving to myself that I can be the best, that it was just, that's like all I could focus on, So he texts me out of the blue. He says, "Hey, I've seen a lot of your work. I've seen the videos that you've been putting out. I really like them. I want to start a YouTube channel for myself. Let's get some coffee and let's meet up and let's talk about it." And I was like, perfect. This is great. I'm gonna be the best YouTuber. I can spit some game on how to be the best YouTuber for him too, and like it'll be great. And then also like outside of the content and stuff, like I haven't seen him in a while, so I was like, oh, this good time to catch up and all that. So it was good. We caught up a little bit, and then eventually we did get to YouTube. We talked about YouTube, and I noticed something very quickly once we started talking about YouTube and specifically my own stuff. Because again, this is in the height of my radicalized focus on my own content. I realized that I was having a really hard time articulating what I was doing on YouTube. In my head, it's so clear of like my vision and like the content that I'm making and why I'm making it in the next video and like the messaging behind it and all that. It's all clear in my head. But when I started talking to him about it, it was super hard for me to express that, because I had never even tried to express it, There were points in time where I was like trying to tell people like, hey, here's what this video is about. Like, I really like it, and it just wouldn't resonate, So over time, I started getting like worse and worse at expressing to people like, hey, here's what I'm doing on YouTube. So eventually I just stopped trying, like entirely. So then we meet up, and I'm trying to tell him about like, here's what my channel is about. Here's what this next video is about. And I couldn't. It was so hard for me. I'm already not good at like articulating myself, as you could probably tell, but, I add that on top of me spending all this time in my head strategizing and progressing this vision that I had, to the point where I never even felt the need to explain it to other people, because I just assumed like other people wouldn't get it. You know what I'm saying? I was so caught up in my own vision that I just stopped trying to tell it to people, because it wouldn't come out well, and then I'd be like, well, they just don't get it. They're not in my head. They don't understand like what I'm trying to do here. And eventually, I tried to carry on with it, and I tried to, keep explaining to him like what I'm doing, what my strategy is. And eventually I got to like my marketing plan, right? Quote unquote. And basically told him I don't have one. I'd spent so much time studying the YouTube algorithm that I was just telling myself, I'm going to make the content for who I think my target audience is, or I'm just going to make the content for myself, really. And the audience will find me. The algorithm is my marketing plan, right? And he directly challenged me. He told me, of course, with a background in marketing, he told me, no, like that's not how it works. Like the YouTube algorithm is good, but the audience needs to find you first, because at this point, I am my audience, right? And I'm making content for people like me, but people like me aren't watching my videos. You know what I'm saying? So I put content out there and I'm kind of praying that people will find it. And, once people find it and once people understand what I'm doing here, once people actually understand me, then it'll just take off. And he told me, no, that's not how it works. So I got defensive. Admittedly, I got defensive and I got a little bit offended. You haven't spent the time in my head strategizing and thinking about my vision that I have. Who are you to question my methods, right? You don't know anything about what I'm doing. You think you can give me advice? Like, I have this vision and you just don't see it. That's what was going on in my head while we were talking about it. And then it hit me. We had the conversation and I got a little defensive and eventually he kind of conceded. I told him that I was understanding where he was coming from, but you just don't understand. So I got home and spent the rest of the day thinking about it, and I realized, okay, he was right. He was he was completely correct in the fact that I don't know anything about marketing my content. I've never tried. And I really did have full faith in the YouTube algorithm, just picking it up and my target audience finding me because the content's that good. But instead of asking for his help and kind of asking for clarification, I rejected his ideas. And I assumed he wasn't aligned with me or he wasn't understanding what I was saying. And I tried to over-explain what I was doing rather than kind of conceding to the fact that I don't know as much as he does about this. So having this radicalized, the point of all this, having this radicalized belief in my own vision built me up these walls, right? It put me in this box that I built for myself that shut me out from every other person, right? Because I had faced frustration with trying to explain my vision and my strategy and my ideas to other people because they weren't getting it, So I said, screw it. I'm just going to make the content that I like. But ultimately, this is what I realized. I'm not creating these videos or this podcast or anything for me. It is a nice outlet to have, obviously, but at the end of the day, it's still public and it's still supposed to be viewed by people. I'm creating it for you. I'm creating it for the audience, the listener, the person who's willing to give me their time and attention. And my job is to give them a reason to provide the value that makes them want to give me their attention. And I lost sight of that. I really lost sight of that by just focusing on this vision that I had, right? And shutting people out, shutting other people's ideas out and their feedback that was genuinely valuable. Didn't listen to it because I didn't think that they were aligned. So here's what I realized. Creativity is a balancing act, right? This is the feedback spectrum. At the end of the day, as an artist or a creative or whatever you want to do, you need to have this radical confidence in your work or, more importantly, your vision. Even if you don't believe that the work that you're doing right now is the best that it possibly could be, it's this belief that the things that you're doing are contributing to this vision and the changes that you want to see that are genuinely valuable and important. So you need to be over here, especially in the beginning stages, of your creativity. It's so important, so important to carry that belief in everything you do, right? Like I said, even if you're not happy with how a specific piece turns out, you don't have to say this is the best video of all time every single time, because it's probably not, truthfully. I look back at my videos from, a few months ago and I'm like, this is not great. Even at the time I thought it was great, but now I'm realizing, okay, I've progressed such a long way. Now I'm understanding that this isn't the best video of all time. But it's not about the specific pieces of work. It's about the collection of work. It's about your library of work that's out there. And you carrying this attitude that your work, your collection, your ideas, your vision is valuable and important and necessary and true. It has to be authentic, is what I'm trying to say. It has to be authentic, the work that you're doing, and that belief that your vision is valuable and important has to be authentic as well. However, that being said, getting caught up in that vision and forgetting why you're creating in the first place, which is for the world, for the people, for the audience, for whoever you're making it for, that's dangerous. Forgetting who you're making it for. It blocks you off from valid feedback, and more importantly, closes you off from opportunities for help from people that can help you progress your vision. It builds up walls. It blocks you off from really good opportunities and really good feedback that you otherwise wouldn't get. So, on the other side of the spectrum, you don't live in a void, right? Your life, your art, your experiences, none of them exist in a void. They all need context, and more importantly, they all need people, right? They need people to function. They need an audience. They need a support system. They need all of it. Letting people in, reaching out to people, most social things are way the fuck out of my comfort zone, right? Just me as a person, that's who I am. But I'm realizing that the comfort zone, being on this side of the spectrum, on the right side of radical confidence, is holding me back from being closer to the left side of open-mindedness, just because it's not in my comfort zone. Like I said, I've always created alone. That's how I've worked best. Even outside of like art and creativity, just with everything I do, it's way easier for me to create alone because there's just so many less barriers, right? So it's easier for me to see something through from beginning to end. But I'm quickly realizing as I'm kind of noticing that, being on this side of radical confidence, my own vision has held me back, that going over here outside of my comfort zone, it's kind of scary. There's so many things out there, and you have no idea what any of them are outside of your comfort zone. But without facing those uncertainties, there's no way to know what you don't know, right? There's no way to know what you're missing out on. So your mind can conjure up like things that are way scarier than what's actually out there, right? Being more open-minded and being more receptive to feedback and all that is probably scary. At least in my head, it's super scary because it opens up the possibility of people not liking what I do. And that feels very personal to me. If I'm putting myself and my, expression of my emotions into a piece, and I open up the conversation to let people say whatever they want about it, even if most of the time it's going to be good and valid and helpful, there is the opportunity for people to be like, this sucks. I don't like this. And that's very personal because it's like, okay, well, screw you. I put my, my heart, my soul, my emotions into this, and you're going to insult it? Like, that's scary. That's scary to me. But like I said, that's all in your head, right? That's all in your head. Because the reality is people are probably going to be able to come back to you with valid and useful criticism, and not even criticism, just feedback, right? So the ideal situation is to be kind of fluid in this, right? Be open-minded, but also have this radical confidence in your own vision, right? And be able to go back and forth. So when you need to develop your own vision, you say, okay, let me look within myself and figure out what I want to do. Am I still aligned with what I want to do? Is this vision even still true to who I am? And then going and adjusting that. And then, once you're done with that, coming outside of that and saying, okay, here's what I want to do. Here's the place that I want to get. Help me get there, right? Turn to other people and say, hey, I'm not doing this alone. I can't do this alone, right? Help me get there. What can I do better? Teach me something, because I know I'm missing something. And being fluid, going back and forth, and kind of taking that feedback, adjusting, your own vision, and figuring out authentically what you're doing and then coming back over here for feedback. So going forward, I'm very grateful. All that being said, I'm very grateful for the time that I've spent in my head. I've spent a lot of time in my head over the past few months, especially since I've taken this thing kind of full time, since I've taken YouTube seriously, since I've taken this podcast on, all of this. It's really changed my perspective on creativity and my role in what I do, but also other people's role in what I do. I'm very grateful for the time I've spent in my head, and I obviously won't be letting it go. Excuse me. Because I've worked that way for 22 years, in my head. It's going to take a very long time to let that go. But B, the time that I spent in my head, my life experiences and how I process anything is what makes me me. It's what makes me unique. My perspective on the world and how I process everything and how I take it and turn it into something is, at the end of the day, what makes me unique. And it's the same for you, Figuring out how you process the world, how you see everything, and then how you internalize that and figure out how to share it back to the world is what makes you you. And you shouldn't try to change that, because then you're, like I said, you're erring on the side of danger with external validation. But all that being said, however, I've realized that I don't know what I don't know, right? And it's up to me to leave my comfort zone and be more open to having other people tell me what I don't know, right? Not being so guarded in my own vision. There's so many great things that people have to say, right? Just even outside of like creativity and art, just whether it be feedback or like experiences that they've had, little nuggets of wisdom, just how they see your work as somebody on the outside, literally anything. Life is huge. Life is a super big thing, and it's so fun to be able to share your perspective on things, and being able to hear other people's perspective. It's beautiful. And like I said, in your comfort zone, you don't know what you don't know. Creating alone is so comfortable. It's so easy to get caught up in your own vision and kind of neglect the fact that other people just don't get it. Or I guess not neglect, but it's so easy to like get caught up in your own vision and convince yourself that other people don't get it because they're not in your head. It's so easy. It's so comfortable. It's super like easy to just guard yourself up like that. But understand that your art doesn't exist alone, right? You make it for people, right? Or else you wouldn't be sharing it. Your art doesn't exist in a void. It exists in a public space where other people can and will perceive it and have something to say about it, right? And that's a good thing, Share it with people. Share it with the people and let those people help you progress your vision. If you're really clear and you make it really obvious that like this is what you're trying to do, and every single piece that you make works towards a vision, people will want to help you if they align with that vision. Because ultimately your life, your art, your work, every single thing that you do, it's all bigger than you, right? It's all bigger than you. You're going to die one day. We'll get philosophical on it. We'll get existential on here. Screw it. You're going to die one day. But the changes that you make while you're here, while you're around, while you're alive, while you're working, will outlast you for years and years and years to come. That's the goal. That's my goal anyway, personally. All you have to do is have a vision and carry this radical belief that you can change the world with your art and with your work. You just have to carry that radical belief with you and let others believe in it too. And when other people believe in it, they'll want to help you if it's something that they align with. So my call to action, what can you do with all this? Send your art to someone. Share your art with the world. More specifically, send it to somebody that might like it. You know, if you make art, show it to someone who would care. If you're clear with your vision, you're clear with what you want to say and the changes that you want to see in the world, they might have something good to say. Or, even better, they might have a way to help you out with everything you're trying to do. You know, like I said, if you're clear in the changes that you want to see and you're clear with your messaging, then somebody might align with it and they'll say, hey, you know, I agree with this message. I want to help you push it forward. I want to help you progress this change. And that's a beautiful thing. So with all that being said, I think that's about it. That's all I had for this. In conclusion, because I feel like I was a little all over the place today, there is a fine balance between having a radical confidence in your vision and also a necessary step that you have to take in the journey of creativity where you're developing this radical confidence and developing your vision. But it is dangerous to get caught up in that. It's very dangerous to get too enthralled in your own vision because it blocks you off from the other side of the spectrum where you're open to feedback and you're open to letting people help you progress your vision and progress the changes that you're trying to make, right? So being fluid, being like water, from being open-minded and allowing yourself to open yourself to feedback and help from other people while also being confident in your vision. It's a give and take kind of thing. It's going to be a constant back and forth. I'm still learning it. It's something I'm still developing. And I'm sure it's going to be a lifelong journey. You know, I'm probably going to go back and forth just based on my character of going back and forth between, you know, isolating myself in my own radical beliefs in terms of the vision that I have. And then also being radically open to feedback, you know, and kind of losing sight of my vision. You know, I'm sure I haven't experienced the other side yet, but now that I'm aware that it's there, I'm probably going to lean too much into it. I'm probably going to be way too open to feedback and lose sight of my vision. And then I'm going to learn from that, you know. But at the end of the day, it's all a learning process because that's what we're here to do. We're here to learn. And then share those experiences. That's what I'm here to do anyway. Cool. So with that, I want to thank you for listening or watching. I feel like this is a very valuable lesson, and it's something that I'm constantly working on. You know, it's something that is not finished. This whole presentation is basically just me recognizing the fact that these two sides exist and, you know, explaining this is ideally where you want to sit, but I have no idea. You know, this show is kind of documentation for me to, you know, for me to listen back and say, okay, here is the lessons that I'm learning. How can I share that with other people who are kind of in the same boat as me? And then how can I look back and see the value in that? So it's all a little selfish. I said that in episode 1, but episode 3, it's still selfish, but hopefully it's valuable. Again, I want to just reiterate the fact that life is a busy thing, and because of that, we'll be going live every Wednesday now at 10 o'clock Arizona time, right here on YouTube. Again, Wednesday, not Thursday. I've been lying to you, and I'm sorry for that. If you got something to say it. Let me know. Share your feedback. I'm all ears, especially now. I think going forward, I need to sit back and realign myself with why I'm doing all this, because I still do find joy in it, and I don't want to ruin this for me, you know. I think that the next step in this process is sitting back, getting more clear with, you know, my vision and kind of what I want to do, and then realigning myself and understanding why I'm doing this in the first place. because I still think that I'm pretty in my head about what I'm doing and the content that I'm creating. And I feel like I kind of lost sight of the people that I'm making it for. So that's the next step, is getting back to it. Emiliano Galvan said, nice job. Great. Thank you so much for the feedback. I'm doing something right, hopefully. But with that, I think that's all I got to say for this week. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And I'll see you guys next week. Hopefully on more sleep. This was kind of thrown together last minute, and I feel bad. I definitely could have articulated my points better, but I'm on like 4 hours of sleep. I got a quad shot this morning, which is something I never do. So I'm like very in between consciousness and also being asleep. So I'll work more on that for sure. More sleep. That's my goal for next week. All right. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. I will catch you next week. Peace.